You know, it's a strange and often tragic truth that some of the most powerful art we have comes from the deepest, darkest places of suffering. And today, we're looking at maybe the most incredible example of this, the story of Ludwig van Beethoven, and how, when he was right on the brink of ending it all, he chose instead to create masterpieces from a world of complete and total silence.
So get this. This is a line from a letter Beethoven wrote back in 1802. It's a shocking thing to read, especially from a guy who, on the surface, seemed to have everything going for him. It really makes you wonder, right? What could possibly drive a genius like him to that absolute edge? Well, the answer lies in a secret he was desperately trying to hide. Okay, let's set the scene. It's the turn of the 19th century, and Ludwig van Beethoven is the toast of Vienna. I mean, this guy is a rock star. He's a celebrated piano virtuoso, a composer whose star is just shooting upwards. To everyone who saw him, he was this titan of music, an absolute force of nature at the keyboard. But behind closed doors, a complete catastrophe was unfolding.
This timeline really just lays out the tragedy so clearly. Look at the overlap. Around 1798, just as his career is taking off, the very first signs of his hearing loss start to appear. For a musician, I mean, that's basically a death sentence. And you can see how it just gets worse and worse. By 1802, he's in this pit of despair, and by 1815, it's over. His deafness is so profound, his career as a performer is done.
So you've got this unbelievable split. In public, he's this celebrated genius, people adore him. But in private, he's living in what he called a hot terror, just absolutely petrified that someone is going to find out his secret. So what does he do? He starts pulling away, isolating himself from the very society that was celebrating him. And that all leads us to the fall of 1802. Beethoven's doctor tells him to get some rest, so he retreats to this quiet little village called Heiligenstadt. And it's there that he sits down and writes this long, soul-bearing letter to his brothers. But here's the thing, he never sent it. It was basically a confession found among his papers only after he died.
He starts by basically talking to everybody who's ever misunderstood him. People saw him pulling away and they thought he was arrogant, stubborn, a guy who hated people. But here, he's finally saying, "You've got it all wrong. You have no idea about the secret reason I'm like this." His isolation wasn't about hating people, it was about shame.
And this gets right to the core of his pain. Just try to imagine the humiliation. To be the world's greatest musician, but you're losing the one sense that defines your entire life. A sense that, as he says, he once had in the highest perfection. It's just devastating. And it's these little details, right? That's what makes his pain so real, so tangible. It's not some abstract concept of deafness. It's these tiny, everyday moments of humiliation. Hearing someone mention a flute in the distance and realizing you heard nothing. Hearing a shepherd sing and again, just silence. These moments, he wrote, brought him to the verge of despair. He was right there, right on the brink of taking his own life. But then, in the middle of all this darkness, in the very act of writing all this down, something shifts, something incredible happens. He finds a reason to keep going. The letter starts as a suicide note, but it becomes his turning point. So you really have to think of the Heiligenstadt Testament as two things at once. It starts as this raw, unfiltered cry of pain, but it transforms into this powerful statement, a testament to the life-saving power of having a purpose. He realizes he's got a mission, and he's not done yet.
And there it is. That's the reason he held on. It was art, with a capital A, his calling, this deep-seated feeling that he still had music inside him that the world absolutely needed to hear. That creative mission was the only thing strong enough to pull him back from the edge.
And what happens after this decision? Well, it unleashes probably the most revolutionary creative burst in the history of music. And what's so incredible, so mind-boggling, is that he composed all of his late, greatest masterpieces while his hearing was fading away into total silence. I mean, just look at this list. This is the music that changed everything. The epic Ninth Symphony, the first time anyone dared to put a choir in a symphony. The deeply spiritual Missus Solemnis. The late string quartets, which were so far ahead of their time, they still sound modern. This isn't the work of a man who's fading away. No, this is the work of a man who found a new, deeper voice. So, this is the big question, right? The one everyone asks. How's that even possible? And while we'll never know for sure, there's a really compelling theory. The idea is that being completely cut off from the sound of the outside world actually freed him. He couldn't hear the musical trends and conventions of his day, so he had to rely completely on his inner ear to create a sound that was purely his own. It was radical innovation born from isolation.
You know, I want to zoom in for a second on one of these late masterpieces, the Missa Solemnis. Beethoven himself said it was his greatest work. And really, it feels like the ultimate expression of this whole journey we've been talking about. This was not your standard church music. No way. This was a deeply personal, philosophical statement. It's like a dialogue he's having about faith and about what it means to be human and about finding something divine inside of ourselves. It's this massive, heartfelt piece of music that just wrestles with all the biggest questions in life. And you can feel this right from the very first words he sets to music. Kyrie eleison, Lord, have mercy. For a man who had been through so much, who had literally begged for just a single day of pure joy in that Heiligenstadt Testament, well, this plea for mercy must have had an unbelievably personal and profound meaning for him.
And to top it all off, Beethoven himself wrote this beautiful inscription right on the first page of the score. It's basically his mission statement for the piece. He wanted this music, which came from the deepest parts of his own heart, from his own suffering, to speak directly to the hearts of everyone who listened. It's a direct, human-to-human communication, reaching across time.
So Beethoven's story leaves us with this huge, powerful question. He took what was arguably the worst possible fate for a musician, and he didn't just endure it. He transformed it into this incredible source of creativity. And it kind of forces us to look at our own lives and ask, when we're faced with our own challenges, our own silences, what's the art that we feel called to produce?